Hello everyone, welcome to Team 8's presentation for the mobile app offering project. Today we'll be talking about the app that we put together, which is called Social Media Hub. Before we get started, we'll talk about our team members. My name's Brian Markin, I'm the project manager. Then we have Chris Massey, who's the business analyst. We have Grayson Garrett, who's the change and risk manager. And we have Ibrahim Alouzi, which is the finance and interview manager. So we'll get started with the project charter. The purpose of Social Media Hub is to allow users the ability to consolidate all of their social media applications into one central location. We want the app to be very easy to use and customizable. It allows them to combine their accounts into one location, synchronize the username and passwords across multiple social media apps, and it works with all major social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, and more. And then we'll be offering a free and premium version with this app. So the goals for this project and the product functionality is we want to create an app that's easy to use and also fun to use and saves the user time. The app will help users keep their accounts and passwords synced up so they don't have to remember them for each social media app they use. The app will be highly customizable so the app feels they're in control of what the app is used for. It's also going to be highly scalable to be used with few or as many apps as the user wants at the same time. And then we'll be offering a free and paid version so the app is very accessible to anyone across the web. Assumptions and constraints for this project. Some of the assumptions: the team needed to have enough time and budget to finish the project. We wanted to make sure the app developer has enough expertise to create the project. The project team members have the skills to complete the project. We also assume that there's a competing app that already exists in the market. And then there's also customer demand for the app. Some of our constraints: we want the budget to not exceed $100,000. The app will be created as designed and delivered on time, and that is free of bugs. For the development and implementation, this was put together by our business analyst. First, we'll start with the scope. That's basically defining the scope for the product. Then we'll go over the software requirements and analysis of the application. Then we'll design the application. Once that design is completed, it'll move to development. Once development is completed, then it'll move to testing, which we have broken out into both alpha and beta testing. Once that is complete, then we will create documentation for the application. That will then be used in the alpha and beta launch so that the testers can fully document their experience with the application. Once the alpha and beta are completed, then we'll move to deployment and implementation, which is basically getting the application ready for the market, uploading those to the Google Play Store or the Apple Play Store. Now we'll move on to the project scope. So the justification for this app is there are a lot of different apps that are available to users on the web, and we felt that would be very overwhelming for the users to go to multiple websites and keep track of multiple username and passwords. Our app allows them to have it all in one location so that they're not having to go to multiple websites and they're not having to remember different username and passwords. It also allows them to remove apps as they're no longer necessary or they are not as popular. I'm sure some of you remember MySpace. MySpace is no longer available, but at one time it was basically the Facebook of the time. Now Facebook, although it's still very popular, is starting to kind of move away for some of the younger generations for things like Instagram and Reddit. So we wanted an application that allowed full control to be put in the hands of the user so that they could keep track of the different apps that they have. So you'll see some of the characteristics and requirements listed here and some of the built-in features. I won't go through that list, but you'll be able to see that. Then we have the different deliverables that we'll have for this project. This will go to the sponsor and then eventually the client. We've done research reports, design documents, the code, the design. All of this will go for the product-related deliverables. For this project to be successful, it has to be completed on time and within budget. We want the quality of the app to be good so that it's very attractive to the client, as well as have no performance or bug issues. Next, we'll move on to the work breakdown structure. So this slide represents the project work breakdown structure. This is basically the flow of how the project team members work through the project. This slide represents the work breakdown structure for the product itself. This was put together by our business analyst. This shows the flow or work breakdown structure for how the app is developed, tested, and deployed. Next, we're going to look at the responsibility assignment matrix. So we used a RACI chart to represent the RAM for the project. As you can see here, we have the list of different activities. We have the 4 members of the team with their various duties here. The R, or the red color, represents they're responsible for that item. The C represents that they can consult to this particular activity. A means they're accountable to that activity, and I means it's informational. This is the responsibility assignment matrix, or RACI chart, for the project. Same concept here, where we have the various activities on the left, and then we have the different responsibilities for the team members for the product at the top. Next, we'll move on to the project and product schedule. We use Microsoft Project to track our progress. So as you can see here, we have our list of tasks, and then we have a start and finish date. We didn't have a lot of predecessors required so that we could basically work on each item independently, although we did have a few. And then each activity or task is assigned a resource, so you can see that in that list. This is the Gantt chart, so this shows that we started work on this project in February, and then we ended the project in April 20th. This slide represents the product schedule. So this schedule would be used if the app will be put into development. You can see that the schedule for this takes about 40 days to complete, which is a very competitive way to get this application up on the market quickly with very low cost. Speaking of cost, we'll move on to project and product budget. So for the project budget, the fees were not very much. It was just basically the supplies to meet and go over the project. The product budget shows that this would cost about $88,000. So the first section there is the initiation. So we had the project manager, which would be myself. Then we have the manager, which would oversee the full development cycle for the application. For the construction section, we have a business analyst. Then we have a software developer and a technical communicator. They would work together on developing the project. Then we have 2 testers that would basically test the application and make sure it's free of bugs and that it doesn't have any performance issues. Then it moves to the closing section, which is our software integration team, which is made up of 2 members, they would take the application and upload that to Google Play or to the App Store. Next, we'll move on to the change and risk management section. So for the change management plan, the purpose of this is if there's any changes that come from the sponsor or other parties, we want to have a plan so that they can put in changes to the application without having too much risk. So this plan allows us to document the changes and then put in those plans through a flow chart. And then the user would put in a change request entry form. So we have full documentation on how the change will affect the application or the development of the application. So this is our flow chart for changes. Basically, if there's a change required, will it have an impact on the budget, scope, quality, or timeline? If it does it impact it negatively? Then we'll say no. If there's a no here or a no here, it'll be archived. However, if it does have an impact, then that means the change is required. Then we'll submit a change request form to the project manager. The project manager receives approval or not from the stakeholder, and then that is communicated to the team, which is then entered into a change table to keep track of those changes and then implemented. This is an example of the change request table where we have 2 different changes that were implemented. This is an example of the change request entry form that we've completed. Again, after a change is entered in the request form, we add it to this table. Next, we want to look at risk and how risks relate to the project. Anytime we have a risk that's identified, we want to go through this process to make sure that we manage the risk appropriately. So first, when a risk is identified, we notify the project manager. The project manager consults the team. The risk assessment form is completed, and then we add that risk or issue to the table. We track the risk progress, and then we manage the risk throughout the full project lifespan. And then once we address that risk, then it is eliminated. This is the risk flow chart, which shows various risks that we identified. Here's an example of a risk or issue assessment form. Next, we'll go over the communication management plan. So the purpose of this is basically to make sure that all parties receive proper communication throughout the project. We basically went and uploaded all of our documentation to Microsoft OneDrive. And then we had different meetings. We basically had 11 different meetings to go over the various activities that we had to complete in order to complete the project. So as here we have the information distribution. We also used GroupMe text, but we did have 11 meetings. And here are some of also the communications to the project sponsor that are allowed. And then for the meeting minutes, we had 11 group 11 group meetings. So although it would be more of a maximum of 11 hours, because not all meetings had a full hour. Here's an example of a survey form. So for the final project report, the Social Media Hub is an application that all consumers can use that allows them to combine or consolidate apps into one. We did have some lessons learned, so you'll see that chart here. And I want to thank you for your attention on our Social Media Hub. We enjoyed the project. We feel that this would be a very attractive application for the market. And thank you for your time.